if there's a God, why is there so much suffering? This is a very common question that is posed, to depose those who have faith and who have belief, in a religion or in the concept of God, which I am, clearly a person who has faith, and I follow a formal religion, and I do my best to follow all its prescribed, requirements, as well as recommended requirements, and very dedicated towards that, or striving to be dedicated towards that. So the answer to this question, I will give my version of it in this video. So firstly, I would like to ask you a great favor. If those of you like the contents of my videos, please also remember to also like and subscribe to my channel. This will greatly help my channel to be able to reach out to more people. And if I could ask you one more greater favor, if you could just share it with just one other person or a social media channel, whichever you choose, and put in your comments. I would really highly appreciate that, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. For those who don't know me, I am Osman. I'm a bioenergy healer on a master level with telepathic healing capabilities, specializing in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, amongst a host of other physiological, psychological, and even spiritual ailments. I currently have an amazing promotion offering a telepathic anxiety fix for 10-minute telepathic anxiety fix for just $5. You can visit my website, yogawellness786.com, to get more information on my services, testimonials, and contact information. And I'm also an advanced level yoga and meditation teacher, having been practicing this art form for almost 50 years and teaching for 44 years. And in that time period, I studied under various masters from different schools of thought, from different cultures across the globe, from the Eastern, Far Eastern, Middle Eastern, Western, and even scientific perspectives, and including many other cultures as well. And to that end, I've been focusing on creating my own protocols that are adapted for the 21st century, making things easier, quicker, faster, more time efficient, results orientated. To that end, I now have students in over 100 countries. And my favorite protocol is my 5-minute yoga and meditation program, which you can download for free by visiting my website, yogawellness786.com. In exchange for subscribing to my blog, and where you can also get more information about my services. Also, remember, all my therapies are natural based and not a replacement for medical treatment. So, answering this question, if there's a God, how come there was the Holocaust? If it's a God of love and God of mercy, how merciful and all powerful God that He can encompass or allow such levels of pain and misery and mass suffering, death, and not only, it's like slow torture in prison camps before the death, and atrocities. Even now, there's across the world so much of misery, pain, suffering, war. There's war carrying out in different parts of the world, like all the time, especially in the Middle East, rife with war, right? And people being murdered and killed, and injustice on both sides. Masses are just, you know, slaughtering humans, right? Where's the God in this? Where's the God you are suffering to pay your rent? Where's the God that you visiting the church all the time, but and you're unable to get a job? You have an illness and you have an incurable illness. Where's the God? For all these things. So the one interpretation which I like, it's not my personal interpretation, right? And I'm not 100% behind that. That he created free will, and in free will, it means people have a choice to choose what they can do. So does it mean that they chose poverty and chose to be killed and chose to be in a prison camp and gassed to death, right? And chose to be in a situation where the flight was crashed into a building and bombed, and thousands of people killed, in that the people chose to be there? No. Free will is is a two-sided coin, right? Because there has to, in order for there to be free will, means people can exercise it how they wish. So some people may exercise it in a way that can be detrimental to society at large, and they can be causing harm. So those who are getting harmed are the innocent victims of the result of creating free will or giving free will to people. But how is it, one may ask, that such a merciful God gives such a power that causes mass innocent victims? There are more victims, exponentially more victims than people who's got that power of free will. If you remove that free will, then you'll save so many lives, right? So here comes my own interpretation, which I believe, this is my perspective, and I believe very strongly that it is something that I think is the correct perspective from a wide and deep study across cultures, right, across the world, and from different masters and teachers. So let's start with the theory by someone who brought yoga, because I'm in the yoga field and I respect other fields as well, like the all from the other cultures as well. But I'm from, I spend a lot of time specializing in the yoga field itself. The person who's attributed to bringing the knowledge of yoga to the Western worlds initially, who gave a talk in London to addressing the United Nations in the early 1900s, I think around 1902 or the late 1800s, is a person known by the name of Swami Vivekananda, right? And he came to London and addressed in the English language, and you can find his collection of lectures and so forth still available. You can purchase them. There's a 9-volume edition of a collection of all his talks and so forth, right? So his spiritual master, or his guru, was Ramakrishna, a personality in the we'll say the northeastern side of India, the Bengal area, and he was in I think near to the city, Calcutta city, and there's a temple called the Dakshineshwar temple, and he used to be there. If you visit that place in India, so you'll get all the accounts of Ramakrishna. But no, these days you can get everything downloaded on, or purchased online as well. But visiting the places also, gives a wider, perspective, on knowledge by face to face. I love face to face and, meeting, personalities and elevated or knowledgeable people from different cultures, different parts of the world, person to person, as opposed to online, right? Unless, of course, it's live online is different, right? Because there is energy transference in live online as the same or almost the same as sitting directly, in the presence of the person. Of course, in the present, when you're within the person's aura, it is very powerful, mind-blowing as well. So coming back to Ramakrishna, he says that everything that you see is not real. It is, of course, I don't agree with that, but we're just talking theoretically, right? And his affirmation, right? He said everything that you see here in the world is a dream. It's not reality. He said, but how come we all can talk and I pinch you, this is real, right? And you're feeling, he said, no, it is part of it is an illusion. When you come to a certain level of meditation, what you see around you disappears completely. It's no more there. You're here, you are sitting, and everything around you is like disappears, like how you wake up from a dream, it disappeared, right? But there are things called vivid dreams where some is fictional, a concoction of your mind, but others is said to be vivid dreams where you are going to other dimensions, in your dream and visiting, because you can find repeated characters in certain dreams that you're meeting them regularly, right? Certain personalities, in your dream. And these are more seem like real dreams and vivid. And the theory is that these are frequencies, and this theory is being currently studied uh, by Harvard Medical University, where people go on DMT trips and they go into psychedelic experiences positive ones and negative ones, that possibly these are not just hallucinations, that they could be real dimensions because of certain commonalities and certain things that couldn't be explained, how people from different parts of the world having descriptions of the very same entities and similar entities in similar places, right? And there are so many different frequencies, right? And according to the science of physics, quantum physics, there are 11 dimensions, and we are on the third dimension. So from the fourth dimension, the quantum dimension, the dimensions are of a higher frequency and more superior, and the entities there are much more theoretically intelligent. And you can read more about it from the books written by Billy Carson in Forbidden Knowledge. His website, Forbidden Knowledge, I think forbiddenknowledge.com or forbiddenknowledge.tv, and with the number 4, not the FO, forbidden, right? Or you can search for Billy Carson, right? And also Joe Dispenza, who's done deep research on neurology and quantum physics, and he explains the healing phenomena and things that are inexplicable in a more scientific perspective, or so that um, it expands your thinking, right? So Ramakrishna stated that everything is a dream, and everything disappears, right? And it's actually not true. And this is not a reality, it is a fiction. So when one goes into higher levels of meditation, now I'm practicing my art form for over 50 years, and you experience other higher levels, because you can experience withdrawal from your body, and you're experiencing the silencing of your mind, and you start experiencing things that you don't know whether it's hallucination. So I have to put it that way, right? Don't know whether it's hallucination or real, but you keep repeatedly seeing that, right? The same personality, not a handful of times, like thousands of times, right? And there is communication, and the type of communication in the higher dimension, from my um, experience, which I cannot say empirically we can say it's true or a hallucination, because I have to talk from a scientific perspective as well, right? That they talk without like open language. Not that they're incapable of language, right? But there wasn't the need, because it's a much less efficient way to use language, an audible way of communication. They use telepathic ways of communication. So instead of explaining, a 4-year degree program over 4 years and over I don't know how many hours of lectures per year, they can do it instantly, download all the information to you telepathically, instantly. So instead of giving you the information only from one faculty, they can give you all the faculties of all the universities in the world, right? And instantly, in one thought, you can have that knowledge, right? Like it's like a download. So now we can relate to downloads, and we can relate to accessibility of information at the fingertips with the advent of AI. So it's much more advanced than all that, right? So now coming back to the concept of God and the illusion and so forth. So when you experience in yoga withdrawal from your body, and you're sitting in your mind consciousness, or the subtle level, and you're having an OBE, an out of body experience, right? So is there such thing as out of body is this true? Is this scientific, where you are lifted above and you can see your body is not you, it's separate? Yes. There's a book on death and dying by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which is accepted in the scientific and medical communities as authoritative, because she carried out the experiments scientifically across the globe in an epidemiological manner, with 20,000 participants of all people who had a near death, or a death, not near, a death experience, that they died for a short time, few seconds to a few minutes, and were resuscitated, and were able to account what happened in that. And there was a similarity thread amongst all of them, which he explained it in a book. You can go and get this book from Amazon Kindle, that On Death and Dying by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, right? It's an ancient book now, I think written in the 1980s or even earlier probably, because when I was in medical university in the 1980s, it was explained to us, in our lectures and the scientific perspective, that so the body is not, if you can leave the body, it's not you, right? And proven scientifically that the body is, but it feels because you connected. So it's not, we will, like from my perspective, I won't say that you are not the body, you're not the mind. I would say the body and mind is an extension of who you are and not a necessary extension for your existence, that you can exist without it, as proven scientifically by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, because they saw the person. They saw their body there and the families crying and, all these things, right? And they were floating, above the body, right? So you have an essence. So from the yogic science of, so what is happening? So we'll refer to very ancient, which now considered by scientific community as a mythological book, the Bhagavad Gita, based on epic, the Mahabharata, an extract from it, in the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, right? So there, he says that the soul is ever unborn. It cannot be destroyed, because Arjuna, his friend, was despondent that he's going to now go into war and do, killing just for winning a piece of land. Must there be so much of destruction? And better he just hand over the piece of property, give over the kingdom, to that person and to that people, and avoid killing, right? This makes sense, right? So this is what we're relating to. Is there a merciful God? There's so much of mass killing, right? And here Krishna is advocate, no, you must mass kill. Said, no, this is just an illusion. You can't kill the person. It is, they are eternal, and they will, they when you kill them, they are still existing, you know. And then we come to the Judeo-Christian Islamic schools of thought, that when you there's going to be a day of judgment, right? And this is believed by at least half the planet, right? Because there's 2.3 billion Christians and close to 2 billion, 1.7 billion or so, or more of Muslims only. And there are also Hindus, and there's other schools of thought and religions as well, right? So many others. There's 100 new religions being formed every year currently as I speak in 2025, right? So there's so many, but just from the two religions already 4 billion, over 4 billion. So it's like half the planet believes in there is going to be a day of judgment. So whether that belief is founded on something acceptable for science or not, but with so much of momentum and freedom of thought and respect for the freedom of thought of, especially in majorities, and we're moving towards a more social, socialite or democracy based, a society where everyone should have a right for his opinion, and have a say. So based on this, where there is no empirical evidence, right? So of course everyone agrees there's no empirical evidence in the existence of that there's going to be definitely a day of judgment, and there is a heaven and a hell, right? So leading personalities like Sadhguru completely disagrees with the existence of a heaven and hell. Of course, he's free to say that, but not half the population is not in agreement with that. Nor is there long lines of people who are accounted to be superior to Sadhguru in some aspects. I mean, we don't want to go into the names of personality and so forth, but they've given proven the test of time to that their teachings and their belief in them is still existing thousands or over thousand or thousands of years later, right? Some cultures 7,000 years, like the Persian culture, the Vedantic culture 4.5 to 5,000 years, the Christian culture over 2,000 years, the Islamic culture over 1,400 years sustained. So we'll have to wait and see, Sadhguru's philosophies, reaching that level. Maybe he's the next person whose philosophy is going to last thousands of years as well. We can do that. And currently, I mean, he's got a very huge following and he does a lot of good, right? So, and also it's based on a culture that is quite old. It's thousands of years old. His assertion, and his assertion is based on the same assertion as the Buddhist culture, right? They don't believe, in a God, in a heaven and a hell and so forth, right? So this is 2,500-year-old culture, right? Also, so there's two sides. So I'm acknowledging this when I'm bringing this argument. So I'm just bringing the theory that there's going to be a day of judgment, and on the day of judgment everyone will be resurrected. So you will be powder and part of the ecosystem and part of the molecules. You can't, maybe not even a shred of a skeleton, right? Totally disintegrated and everything, but it will be reformed from even one atom of what used to be you, through the miracle of the creative. The creator created the miracle of the universe. He can resurrect you. And when you are resurrected, if you died as a very old person, you'll be resurrected as an adult around 30 years old, right? Young, strong, in the peak of your physical youthfulness and maturity. And if you died as a child or an infant or a teenager, you still be given an adult, how your adult version would have been had you lived to adulthood and so forth. And you will be admitted into heaven or hell, right? And there, enjoy forever. So that period where you'll be enjoying in the heaven or hell is going to be for eternity. And people now, on average, are living between 78 and 81 years old. This is the average, lifespan of people. 78 years for men is average. People are living longer, and 81 for women, right? So let's say an average of 80 years in total, 79, 80 years on average. Compare 79, 80 years to eternity, and there you reform. So what happened? So let's make that comparison to a movie scene, right? So you went to the cinemas and you saw this movie on, on the Holocaust, right? For example, people were mass killed and everything, and then the person who played the lead role and was killed, and he wins an Oscar. How did he come back? He's alive and kicking, and nothing happened to him. But when you're in the movie, it looks so real, right? And you don't ask, how can the director be so merciless? So, no, it's just a play, it's a fictional thing. It's not real. But the person really, some scene, they're really getting punched, right? There is some harm happening. With the stunt people and the jumping, they're getting some type of blows and punching in the fight scenes, right? And even if likely or the thing, and you get some of the actors that don't want stunts, and they broken, many of the bones. I think this guy from China, from Hong Kong, I forgot his name, Jackie Chan, right? He's got more broken bones. He even got a hole in his head, right? From all his acting and the injuries, but he's still okay, So it is reaching certain levels of danger in the movie. We don't say, how can this person be so merciless? If he is a human, is he a masochist? We don't choose it. Say, oh, we praise him and give him an Oscar award, right? So similarly, that's the theory from a Ramakrishna point of view, that everything is an illusion from many philosophers, and from the Judeo-Christian point of view, not an illusion that it's real, but it is temporary. And from a modern science point of view, from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, that we when we rise, we can see the body. So it was the body that was injured. It's just an extension of who you are, and you are okay, and there's nothing wrong with you. There was no hole in you, no bullet hole in you, no operation mark in you, and all that. That you could, because you are more of a subtle, nature. And then from experience in the advancement of yogic sciences, which can be empirically, calculated. There's a lot of people in advance. You can go to the Tibet, to the Buddhist monks, which are, experimented on, most of the thing, and you can resurrect, like those who are very advanced in meditation that died, and you open their graves, and they seem to be very well preserved because the body does not decay like the normal person, because they advance to a higher level, and the cells and the body transform to energy body. And there's also the theory that you can transform to the light body. And then we get the book, The Deathless Body, Art Peranjodi and the Deathless Body. It is by PhD professor, I think is Tulsi Ram or Tulsi Das, right? Tulsi Ram, I think, is the professor, but it's available on Amazon. Art Peranjodi and the Deathless Body. In the 1980s, he wrote this book. It's extensive, this thing, on an account of someone who's claimed to have attained the deathless body. And not only him, it is someone else also in the autobiography of a yogi. There are accounts of some personalities that are living for long periods of time. So there's not just one isolated. There's so many. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That potentially this is an illusion, like a movie scene, that this is happening. So the person was given free will in a VR, in a virtual reality, not in a real reality. Real reality, you can't harm. The person is my assertion and the explanation of how can there be so much of misery and suffering if there is a God who we claim to be merciful and loving and intelligent God, right? So hope that perspective and information helps you. Take care of yourself always.